You're watching RTE1. It's time now for the main evening news with Eileen Dunn.
Good evening and welcome. The main news tonight. In the first row of the election campaign, Fianna Fáil accuses Fine Gael of producing a dishonest manifesto, but that party hits back with talk of funny money. Out on the hustings, it's vote management that has been occupying the party leaders' minds today. Elsewhere, fishermen opposed to cuts in salmon quotas take their protest to the streets of Galway. And another great day for Munster Rugby as they beat Cast to qualify for the final of the Heineken Cup. There have been angry exchanges between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael on the economy. In the first major row of the election campaign, Fianna Fáil has accused Fine Gael of producing a dishonest manifesto full of fibs. But Michael Noonan hit back, claiming the Fianna Fáil manifesto was based on funny money.
The quiet opening 48 hours of this election campaign has now given way to a bitter war of words between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael on the economy. At their regular media briefing this morning, Fianna Fáil's Seamus Brennan waved the Fine Gael manifesto in the air and said it was a dishonest document full of fibs.
And it's quite reckless of Fine Gael to be talking about tax reductions and a new tax rate of 30%, because what they haven't told the people is that 30% doesn't mean people coming down after higher rate onto 30. That according to these sums, which we've costed, it will mean the people on 20% going up to the 30% rate.
And Seamus Brennan says the gaping black hole is €6.6 billion.
They're telling fibs. They're telling fibs at the moment about this, because these sums don't add up. They simply don't add up.
But Michael Noonan has stoutly defended his document, saying it's properly costed.
The Department of Finance have said that based on the assumptions for growth and on the assumptions for inflation with which they agree on the present tax code without raising any taxes and in present day money terms, that our figures are correct. So it's quite clear that Fianna Fáil know this, so when they know that our figures are correct, we must look for a political reason for the attack, and it's the first signs of panic in the Fianna Fáil campaign.
Substance, not slander, that's what Bertie Ahern called for a short few days ago at the outset of the election campaign. But now the gloves have come off. Fianna Fáil has accused Fine Gael of producing a dishonest manifesto full of fibs. Michael Noonan has responded by saying that it's the Fianna Fáil manifesto that's based on funny money. This bitter war of words on the economy is set to continue. Charlie Bird, RTE News.
Campaigning on the ground began in earnest today with the main party leaders visiting key constituencies. The Taoiseach was canvassing in the 5-seater Meath constituency and in neighbouring Westmeath, which is a 3-seater. Mr Ahern played down the possibility of Fianna Fáil winning an overall majority.
Kells in County Meath delivered this golden moment. Newlyweds Noel and Sinead Gaynor floated straight down the aisle into the arms of the Taoiseach. Kells is Johnny Brady country, Meath being carefully carved up by the 3 sitting Fianna Fáil deputies. Junior Minister Mary Wallace had supporters out early in her patch in Ashbourne. Concerns from this lady that the town is turning into Ballymun, but Mary Wallace challenging her party allegiances. As the convoy motored on to Trim and Navan, images of Wallace dissolved seamlessly into images of Minister Noel Dempsey. This walkabout in Navan Shopping Centre, complete with perfectly choreographed good luck balloon. And a chat with an old neighbour from Church Avenue. Meath is the jewel in the Fianna Fáil crown, fresh from the internal battles in Kerry North. The Taoiseach was clearly wishing others would follow the Meath example.
It's a very good system, a very tight system. I wish I could implement it everywhere, quite frankly. I don't mind saying that.
The flesh pressed in Navan, it was on to Westmeath and Mullingar to join Deputy Leader Mary O'Rourke and aspiring hopeful Donny Cassidy. Could a second seat here be on the cards?
Overall, I'm afraid Westmeath is listed for 1 at this stage. Meath is listed for 3. If we started winning Westmeath, that starts helping, but we're still not on near 84, 85.
The Taoiseach finished his canvass of Meath and Westmeath with rallies here in Mullingar and in Athlone. Tomorrow he's back in Dublin. He heads west on Monday and Tuesday, canvassing votes in Mayo and Galway. Mary Wilson, RTE News, Mullingar.
The Fine Gael leader Michael Noonan was also canvassing in Meath today, as well as in County Louth. He was accompanied by former party leader John Bruton. Mr Noonan outlined proposals to make housing more affordable, particularly for first-time buyers.
Good to see you, Mr Bruton. How are you? Good to see you. Thanks very much. How are you doing?
The former Fine Gael leader John Bruton and the current leader Michael Noonan putting their past differences behind them and forging a united front in Mr Bruton's stronghold of Meath today in an effort to maximise the party vote. They have 2 seats here and believe they have a fighting chance of a third in what is a tough 5-seater. At one stage, the Fine Gael bus got a bit too close to Mr Bruton's Mercedes, causing a minor scratch, unavoidable it seems during a busy day's canvassing. Mr Noonan got to hold his first baby of the campaign while meeting first-time buyers to tell them of his plans to ease up the difficulties of buying a new home.
One of the things that inhibits young people from buying houses is the difficulty in putting a deposit together.
He's promised them a €1 for every €3 saved on house deposit and to double mortgage interest relief. It was hats off to the leader, however, by one of the party's best known and most outspoken TDs, Brendan McGahan in Louth, who's retiring after a long life in politics. Fine Gael are confident of holding their 2 seats in the 5-seater constituency of Meath, but it's here in Louth, the 4-seater, where the party are gearing up for some real battle. Just 381 votes short the last time they've classed it a marginal and believe they've a real chance of taking a second seat here this time round. Cathy Halloran, RTE News, Dundalk.
Rory Quinn's day began in Dublin West, helping Joan Burton get back to the Dáil. The party's 6 core pledges from health to housing were also distributed.
Now, they won't work in an ATM machine, but they'll do magic in a ballot box.
He received a warm reception and appeared very at home on the stump.
Love the hairstyle.
He was also pushing the party's policy on free preschooling for 1 year.
And that's when inequality starts in our society.
Later, the Labour leader was in Dublin North helping candidate Sean Ryan and stating the party would increase pensions in 2 budgets.
€200 in our second budget.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Would it?
That'd be good. Oh yeah, that'd be great.
One of the messages he heard back was that facilities for young people were required urgently.
They're complaining that people are on the streets and all. Where is there else to go?
Yeah.
You know, you have to go somewhere.
Not far away was a prime example, a homeless teenager getting high by sniffing nail varnish bought for €3.40. Paul Cunningham, RTE News.
In other news, 4 Israelis were killed today in a Palestinian attack on a Jewish settlement close to the West Bank city of Hebron. Israeli troops later killed a Palestinian gunman near the scene of the attack. Meanwhile, Israeli and Palestinian negotiators are planning to resume talks tomorrow in an effort to end a 24-day-old standoff at Bethlehem's Church of the Nativity.
At least 2 gunmen disguised in army uniforms slipped through a security fence in the Adura settlement and then opened fire on residents. They fired through the window of this house, killing a 7-year-old girl and wounding her 2 brothers. They then moved on to other houses, firing indiscriminately. Before they escaped, 4 people had been shot dead and at least 7 others wounded. A short time later, a Palestinian was shot by Israeli troops in a village close to the settlement. It's not yet clear if he was involved in this morning's attack. This was the first Palestinian attack on Israelis since a suicide bomber killed 6 people near a Jerusalem market 2 weeks ago.
The attack this morning against Israeli citizens in the West Bank proves that terror has not yet been eradicated. It seems that there are some Palestinian terror groups that are still very eager to kill Israelis, and they are continuing to do so.
Israeli and Palestinian negotiators are planning to resume talks tomorrow in an effort to end the standoff at Bethlehem's Church of the Nativity. Earlier, Israeli soldiers surrounding the church shot and wounded a Palestinian inside. Tomorrow also sees the start of a UN fact-finding mission to establish what happened during Israel's military operation in the Jenin refugee camp. The investigation was prompted following Palestinian allegations of a massacre. 2 senior Gardaí have been added to the team to meet Israeli objections that it's dominated by humanitarian rather than security specialists. John O'Driscoll, RTE News.
Back home, fishermen opposed to cuts in salmon catches have been protesting in Galway. They claim that proposed changes in fish quotas and new regulations will lead to the destruction of coastal communities. Their chairman, Michael Connors, said the protests, which have already resulted in port blockades, will escalate over the next few weeks.
A fishing boat brought a model of a salmon into Galway docks to lead the fishermen's protest. Drift and draft netsmen have joined forces in the Irish Traditional Fishermen's Association to oppose catch quotas that are aimed at protecting salmon stocks, but which they claim will destroy their livelihoods and the coastal communities in which they live. Men like Tom Flaherty from Connemara, who's been fishing salmon since 1948.
I think it's a national disgrace that legislation like this is brought in on us people back there and our families that have no other means of making a living. No Celtic Tiger, no nothing ever touched us back in that part of the world.
Tom Flaherty was joined by hundreds of his colleagues and their families from the 17 salmon fishery districts all around the country. Already they've staged demonstrations in Cork and Waterford ports and say while they will cooperate in protecting salmon stocks, the quotas they maintain, drawn up by the National Salmon Commission and the Department of the Marine, target them while favouring anglers and tourism.
We have agreed already to work on a quota, providing the quota is workable. But we seem to be the only sector in the country at the moment.
This is a row that's set to continue. Tom McSweeney, RTE News, Galway.
A 32-year-old man has been before Dublin District Court charged in connection with an incident in South County Dublin this morning in which 6 young children were held inside a house for several hours. Paul Moy, a father of 6 from Sheelan Avenue in Shankill, was charged with criminal damage and with possessing a knife at the house on Sheelan Avenue in the early hours of this morning. He was remanded in custody to appear again at Dunleera District Court next Thursday. And there we take a break, but coming up in part 2, protests in France against Jean-Marie Le Pen ahead of next weekend's final round of the presidential elections. And Colm has all the day's sports news.
Yes, indeed, Eileen. And of course, the big story today is rugby, with Munster celebrating their win against Cast, which brings them to the European Cup final.